All right. Today is class number 3. First of all, I want to thank everyone for being here because you can't imagine how important the work you're doing. And one day you will realize and you'll be like, wow, I'm so happy I did it. Because you're affecting not just yourself, but you're affecting the whole world by doing this work. And so we're on week 3, and I prepared a lot of interesting stuff. So I was inspired by the radio show, and of course everybody's talking about the viruses, the illnesses, blah, 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 but nobody talks about that we're creating our own diseases. So, and I've been researching it few years now, and I'm going to present to you all my findings. Most of them are mine, but including some famous people too. So origins of illnesses. In my book, I have 4. One is the past life. Something happened to you in the past life, especially the way you died, and you will bring that memory into your body in this lifetime. The second one, and I'll go by each one. The second one is your beliefs, the beliefs that were installed in your system by your parents, your grandparents, and so forth. And programming, how you program yourself by saying things, and you programming yourself with the diseases. And of course, there are traumas that happen in this lifetime and in your childhood, and most of the emotional traumas that would create illnesses later in life. So I'll dissect all of them. So first I'll start with some examples from my sessions about diseases that come from the past life. I had one of my favorite example is I had a young man. He was from a very religious background. He was a Hasidic Jew. I was very surprised that he came to me. And he was born with the thyroid issue. He's been on medication all his life, and he was constantly under this cloud of medication, and it didn't let him think straight or live a normal lifestyle. He was, as a Hasidic Jew, he was married at a young age, and he couldn't handle the relationship. The wife left him, took the children, because he was a mess. So he was a young man in his early 30s, and at one point he decided to take him off medication and to go holistic. So he went online, started doing research, and he was trying to do some supplements. And then he found me, and we had a session. So during the session, we go back in the past, and we find out he sees himself during the wartime. He was a young man, a teenager, and he's running around. His family got killed. He's all by himself. He doesn't know what to do. The enemies are coming, and the soldiers are coming, and he's hiding in this building. And the soldier comes in, finds him, shoots him dead, and the shot goes into his head, and he was seeing himself out of his body, and his body just blew up. His whole head blew up. Quite terrifying ending of the life. So we get to his higher self, and the higher self, the connection was amazing. The higher self explains that because his death was so traumatic, He came back very soon. He didn't go through the healing process on the other side. And he came back with the memory of this, his head blowing up, and he had still this memory implanted in his brain. And it created a brain fog, constant brain fog. And he also had, because he was shot in his neck, he was born with a thyroid that was too small for his body. The healing was absolutely amazing. He could see, he was in a very deep trance, but when the healing happened, he felt the expansion in his throat. So that's one of my favorite examples of the past life traumas that brought a disease into this life. Another one is this young woman came to me, and she complained about not feeling her body. It's like she and her body were separate. And because of that, she had a lot of illnesses. We found out that in the past life, she hanged herself. And because she committed suicide by hanging herself, she severed herself from the body. So she came back with that memory. Then the next one, the man who had unidentified pain in his back. It was like a stabbing pain. It was constant. Doctors couldn't figure it out. In the past life, he was killed by a knife in that area, came back with that memory. Then the last one I had recently, this woman was completely terrified of crossing bridges. She was so terrified she couldn't drive over a bridge. So she had, she needed somebody and a driver. Her husband had to drive her. And when she was a passenger in the seat, she would go like this. She was so afraid of the bridges. The higher self told her that that came from the past life when she was thrown into a volcano. So pretty horrible way to die. I also find that a lot of skin diseases are because of you were burned in a past life. Okay, so that's as far as the past life. Now I want to talk about the beliefs. The conventional medicine now introduced the genetic testing. And I'll tell you why I am completely against it. Now, I know my panel is very educated, and most of you probably know this famous biologist, Bruce Lipton. And for those who don't know who he is, I encourage you to read his book, Biology of Belief. So this man studied a cell, a human cell, all his life. That's all he studied, human cell. And he realized that the cell has an antenna. And the cell behaves according to the information it gets from the outside of it. So even though you can have this genetic testing, and genetic test can say that you're predisposed to endless possibilities of diseases, but how does the cell choose which one? It's by the way you think, by how you program the cell, because that's how it gets the information. It gets the information from the outside, from your thoughts. So the cell will create whatever you tell the cell to create. And for example, by reinforcing that, you have to pay attention to what you say. Like and you know, people who have this disease, they would be saying all the time, oh, I have this, and they would be talking about what they have. They identify themselves with what they have, what kind of illnesses they have. So they're reinforcing that illness. Or people will say, you know, my parents had this or that, and therefore I might get it. Well, your subconscious doesn't hear, I might. The subconscious hears, I will get it. So it's like you're giving instructions to the body. You're constantly giving instructions to the body of what to do and how to behave and how to live. Or people would say something like, I don't want to catch this. I don't want to get this virus. And I always knew that, and I always said it, that the subconscious doesn't hear the word no. But I didn't know why. And I just recently discovered it from Tamarinda in one of her videos. She said that the word no has no vibration. Every word has a vibration. The world is created by the sound. The sound was first. The sound creates matter. The word no has zero vibration. So when you say, I don't want to get this, your body is hearing, I want to get this. It doesn't hear, I don't want to. You see how it works? Well, as far as beliefs, also we can go into folklore, omens, and signs. I know, like in the Caribbean, for example, they say, don't go to sleep with your hair wet, you'll get sick, right? And or I heard this one, don't iron your clothes in the rain, you'll get sick. Or Russians would say, oh, don't go outside without a hat in the winter. I was so surprised when I came to the United States, everybody in the winter has no hat and nobody gets sick. In Russia, everybody wears hat and everybody's sick all the time. So you're reinforcing your diseases with the way you talk, what you say. So see how important it is to know and to pay attention to your words and your thoughts. It's incredible. So this is a quote that I got from one of the spiritual masters, and I thought I'll share it. As you think, so you shall become. We have the ability to shift matter and energy through our brain. Our brain is the king and the body is the kingdom. Through our thinking process, we can change the wiring of our brains, change our genetic code, change our DNA. So truly what we think, we become. So we choose how we choose to perceive our thoughts, our attitude, and what's around us dictates what we become. Quite amazing, isn't it? Nobody tells you that in medical school. This is what my teacher Tamarinda is teaching us. If you pay attention to your thoughts, you will see that 95% of them are negative and destructive. Because you always choose to have a comfort. Comfort destroys the body. The body needs to be active. We're used to have a lot of comfort, so we end up in stagnant energy. When you don't move your mind, your thoughts, the energy becomes toxic and it kills you. Something to think about, right? So basically, that's what Tamarinda says, basically all the diseases are caused by bacteria, viruses, and parasites. And she's big on parasites. She says that everything is because of the parasites in the body. But what produces all those disease, bacteria and parasites live only in acidic environment. But what makes the chemical reaction in your body to make your body acidic? And I know a lot of people on this panel too, and me including, are into alkaline, the body, drinking alkaline water and all that. But let me tell you, it's not going to help you if your emotions are toxic. Your emotions creating the toxicity. Emotions are your own chemical reactions produced by your middle brain. And Tamarinda also says that we create our reality from the middle brain also. So it's funny. And she likes to talk about parasites and what they do. But I want to give you some examples of how emotions are connected to our different organs and influence our organs. And this information comes from the quantum healing hypnosis. Most of it is from this book and from my experiences also. This book was written by Julia Cannon. She is a daughter of Dolores Cannon. So at one point she decided to put together in one book of, oh, somebody wants to come in. So she's trying to put in the book all the explanation that were given by the higher self of why the client has certain diseases. But I'm going to read it to you and you'll see how it makes sense. It's all actually a common sense. So the heart organ, the heart is all about love. It's love energy. So when the person has issues with the heart, it's because they don't have love for themselves, love for life, or just love. They're missing love in there, or they feel, or they're, in my experience, I know two people that have heart issues. Both of them were abandoned as children, and that created traumatic experience. One was lost his mother to death at the age of 5, and the other one lost his father, both of them having heart issues. Being abandoned by somebody they loved. So liver. Liver is the organ that takes the toxins out of the body. Liver is connected to anger. So people who have issues with the liver, usually it's because it's something or someone is poisoning you. It could be your thoughts, could be things that you're saying, or somebody, by the way they're maybe abusing you, is poisoning you. Kidneys. Kidneys are connected to fear, emotion of fear. Kidneys also connected to water. Kidneys takes the toxins also out of the body. It's the words, thoughts, and actions are influenced. Toxic words, thoughts, and actions influence the kidneys. And in my experience, I had a case when somebody drowned as a child. Actually, it was the other way. My client told me that they have a kidney cancer. And the first thing I asked them, have you ever drowned? And she said, yeah, I drowned like when I was a child. The fear of drowning produced this disease in her body. But because she came to me, and once you realize what makes you sick, you can get rid of the trauma, the emotion, clean the trauma, the emotion out of your body. You don't need to have this disease, because disease is a message from your body. That's how your body speaks to you. If people don't go forward in life, are afraid to go forward, they might fall and break their leg. That's how it's connected. So next one is the thyroid, and the endocrine system is related to not being able to speak your truth. And I had a case like that. I was very clear to the person that she was not able, she had all these emotions and she was storing them, and she was not able to say what she wanted to say to her partner, and that created the disease. Diabetes. Diabetes regulates pancreas, it regulates the sugar in your system. Not enough sweetness in your life. If you don't have sweetness or joy in life, you're missing joy, you create diabetes. And then you reinforce it by telling everyone. I have a friend who's been diabetic from childhood, and she tells everyone all the time, every time you see her, she will tell her, you know me, I am so sick. Oh, and she'll go in this drama for like half an hour nonstop until you just can't take it anymore and walk away. But she feeds on this disease. And I keep telling her, it's psychosomatic. Your disease is psychosomatic. And she understands it, but she can't help herself. She's so used to it. Intestines. Intestines eliminates the toxic waste. So it's unexpressed feelings. And when there is no action taken. You can express maybe your feelings, but if you don't take the action, it will create issue in that area. Blood. Blood is a force of life. So blood pressure is a lack of trust in the world around you. My mother used to have a blood pressure. And when I told her that, changed her thinking. I don't think she has it anymore. Bones. Any issues with the bones is issues with your plans and not being secure in your plans. And also not feeling the structure in your life. Brain is a sender and receiver of messages and information. So the problem with the brain is the resistance to that information. And I know a lot of people are getting now memory issues. Maybe they're resisting the information they're getting. Breathing issues. Fear of life. Isn't that interesting with this virus? Fear of life, because, and loss of passion for life. Breath is a connection to life. As I said before, you know, we start living with the first breath and we end living with the last breath. So it's passion for life. Eyes issues is how you see the world around you. Are you accepting what you see, or something maybe you don't want to see. Same thing with hearing. My mother had been having a hearing issue, and I keep asking her, I said, what is it that you don't want to hear? And she's like pointing to my father, him. I don't want to hear him. I said, well, there you go. You want to get rid of your hearing issue? Better listen to what my father has to say. Okay. I have more in this book, and we can go over it a little later. You can ask questions, but I want to finish it with emotional intelligence. This is a main topic for this. Somebody's trying to come in. Okay. What is emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence is how you manage your emotions. We already, realized that emotions creating issues in our life. So how do you manage it? And as I told you before, 5 minutes of anger or fear will stop your immune system for 6 hours, will make your body toxic, so all the bacteria, viruses, and parasites are attacking you during those 6 hours. And if you're staying in fear for days and days, forget about it. As they say in Brooklyn, forget about it. Okay, emotional intelligence. Our emotions are generated by the limbic system from hypothalamus in the middle brain. The moment someone or something triggers your memory of something that happened to you earlier on, and as I told you before, everything that happens to us creates this kind of a knot in our auric field, and it invites, it becomes a loop because it's being reinforced. It being created over and over again until you clear it out of the system. And that's what you've been doing for the last 2 weeks, clearing the fear and anger out of your system. So see how great work you've been doing? So the moment that someone or something triggers you, your memory of something that happened in your earlier life, the hypothalamus in your brain releases a peptide. The peptide rushes into your body and locks itself into every cell of the body, which creates a holographic feeling of that emotion. So it takes nanoseconds. Trigger, and the peptide is released, goes into bloodstream, and you're immediately in the bubble of this emotion. Let's say the emotion is fear or anger. When you're in that bubble, the way you perceive the world is through this destruction. To you, it's so real, you could feel it, and the only way to change it is through the opposite. But there is no way at this moment that you can even connect to the opposite. Let's say the fear is opposite of love or peace. You can't remember what peace feels like in that second when you are in fear. So the management, the emotional management system tells you to, first when this happens, you have to realize that this is a test. And the next step is you recognize what the emotion is. And you say, okay, this is a test. The emotion is, you identify it. It's anger. And you start, the recommendation is at that moment you start counting. You have to count to 10 seconds. You have to stop the reaction for at least 10 seconds. So you start counting 1001, 2000, 3000, and until you feel the emotion diminish. So what happens to the peptide? At the moment of the trigger, the peptide changes your vibrational frequency and you're in the bubble. But the peptide that's released, relying on your belief of that emotion. When you start counting, the peptide is and you are holding that reaction, the peptide loses it kind of wears out. So if you can hold on your reaction for 10 seconds, the peptide will be diminished and the bubble will be released. And the next step, and if you can hold it for 10 seconds, keep counting. Maybe you'll need a whole minute, but it's enough. 10 seconds is enough to stop you from reacting. And that's the most important part of managing your emotions. So, and the next part is once you're out of that bubble, you have to go into a positive emotion, an opposite emotion, opposite positive emotion. So fear, peace. Just try to remember what peace feels like, or anger, joy, something like that. So this is how you managing your emotion. Okay, so homework for the next week. Try to manage your emotions. See if anybody, look for those triggers. Whoever triggers you, recognize that they trigger you into those emotions and see if you can manage it this time. You do it once, you already become a winner. And we're going to change the breath also. So I want you to go into, I hope you all been doing the breath work. We have a couple of new people on the line, so I know you didn't do it. So we've been doing some breath work in order to learn. I'm dissecting this breath work because we're going to learn a technique later on that we will use that breath work. So the next step in the breathing exercise is, I call it a square, where you take the breath in, hold, then you take a breath out and hold again. And it has to be an equal square. So you are going to try to do 7, a count of 7. So you're just counting, you breathe in, you count to 7, you hold till 7, but 7 most likely is impossible for you to do now because you're not, you didn't have enough training. Unless you had training before and breath work, you will not be able to do it. So start with 4, whatever you can manage, and see how soon you can get yourself up to 7. But if you do 10 minutes a day of this breath work, I promise within 2 weeks maximum, you'll get yourself up to 7. And as I'm doing it now, I've been doing it for more than a month now, I'm seeing incredible results in my physical performance. Like when I do exercise, it's completely different story. So that's the homework for next week. Managing your emotion, doing the breath work, and we're going to continue on releasing this more emotion. And the next one is I want you to focus on loss of power. You go back into your past and see when did you give your power away to somebody else? When did you lose your power? When did you when somebody forced you to do something that you didn't want to do and you still did it to please them or for any other reason, find that and get your power back. So for the new people, we're writing 3 pages on a topic every day. 3 pages, because usually like a page and a half you get stuck. So the more you write, the more you get it out of your system. And now is the time when it's absolutely essential. The more you cleanse yourself out, the more power you will get. And all my trainings, all these classes is based on getting your power back. Because until you get your power back, you can't help anyone. Okay, so thank you for listening. I'm going to unmute everyone. So if anybody wants to have a question.